Sometimes I split them up into just one stalk. Sometimes they don't come apart as easily, and I leave 2 stalks in a bunch there. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having an awesome day. It is Friday, September 12th here in South Georgia, and on today's video we're going to do a little allium planting. So we're going to plant some shallots, we're going to plant some perennial onions, and I'm going to show you a variety of perennial leeks that has really impressed me so far. So it's not quite time to plant bulbing onions, but our bulbing onion plants in the greenhouse here are looking pretty dang good. About time to give those a little haircut. And this little experiment where we're trying to grow our own onion plants outside in this raised bed is just going okay. Our seeds came up pretty well, but some of them have just kind of dried up and fallen over. Not on every row, but that first row there, got a few in this row that did it. These over here in these 2 rows look okay. Not sure what happened with some of those. It just kind of died. No idea what could have caused that. Maybe a critter or a bird got in there. But I still think we're going to have enough onion plants here if what we have left makes it. So those bulbing onion plants won't be planted until early November, assuming our plants are ready by then, and it looks like they should be. But today we need to get some different alliums planted, and we're going to start off with our Louisiana evergreen shallots here. Now, I told you back when we harvested ours and a couple of videos where we were talking about this particular shallot variety, I save all these tiny ones for myself, so we sell the larger ones, and we've already shipped out all we had. We're sold out for the year, but I save these smaller ones for myself because I find they do just as good as the bigger ones. But when you're shipping stuff and fulfilling orders, you try to send people the larger ones, so we save these for ourselves. Now, last year I planted these in late July and they did just fine, and that's why I told everyone as they were ordering these a month or so ago, you can go ahead and plant them as soon as you get them. I just am not getting around to it until right now, say middle of September. So you can plant these in the middle of summer. The heat doesn't bother them, but you also don't have to be in a huge hurry to plant them. As long as you get them planted, say late summer, early fall, you should be fine. This tub here of little shallot bulbs has just been sitting in my greenhouse. They haven't really shriveled up or dried up too much. They still look good. They should get going pretty fast. So as I've told you in the past, these Louisiana evergreen shallots are pretty much the only shallot we can grow down here in the deep south. Traditional shallot varieties don't do well for us because our days aren't long enough in the summer. They never really bulb, but these will bulb for us. But when you're planting these, you need to realize these are going to be in the ground a long time. So keep that in mind when you decide where to plant something like this. You can always move them. Doesn't hurt them to move them, as we'll demonstrate with some other alliums later in the video, but they're going to be in the ground all the way until next summer. So you plant them in the summer or the fall, and they just grow and grow, multiply and multiply, and then you won't harvest them until the following summer when they start to die back a little bit and they start to bulb. So here's our planting setup for today. I've just got 2 rows ready to go. I already had these drip lines in these positions from previous crops, and I didn't want to move them around. I probably do have room to fit 1 more row of alliums in the middle there at some point. But today we're just going to work with these 2 rows using our trusty old fad system here. So we make a furrow, we amend that furrow with some of that Coop Grow fertilizer you see down in there, and then we put our drip tape in the furrow. And so all I need to do now is grab the wheel hoe, cover up these drip lines, and we'll be ready to plant. Alright, so our drip line is buried. You can see that right there. You can also see a nice little worm right there. Good indicator of some healthy soil. We'll cover him back up so the sun doesn't burn him. Now the question is to do single rows or double rows. We've got it set up here with 2 little nice mini furrows. We could easily do double rows, or we could plant right on top of this tape, just do a single row. So doing double rows is a great way to maximize space in your garden, getting 2 rows of groceries per line of drip tape as opposed to just 1. But there are some things you should consider before doing double rows. So if we plant on both sides of this drip tape, like I'm doing right here, what's going to happen as these onions grow, it's going to become quite the jungle right here. Not that big of an issue if you have a low weed seed bank, but if you lose the weed battle quite often in your garden, you probably don't want to do double rows. It is a lot harder to weed. So take that into consideration, whether you want to do double rows or not, or just do a single row. And this goes for all alliums, not just these shallots, but bulbing onions as well. And much like garlic, you want to plant these shallots with a pointed end or the vegetative end up. Now, as far as spacing goes, you can plant these pretty close together. We could plant them, I don't know, 3-4 inches apart like that if we wanted to. But if we water and feed these things really well, they're going to get pretty overcrowded with that real close spacing right there. And we plan on feeding them and watering them pretty well. So I'm going to spread mine out to about 8 inches or so there. Not going to plant them so close because I'm going to take good care of them, and they're going to multiply into these huge bunches. If you're not going to feed or water them a whole lot, you can pack them in there a little tighter. So I'm going to bebop down this row here and get both sides of this drip tape planted. When I'm planting the other side here, I'm going to stagger my bulb placement. So I'm going to put this bulb right there so it kind of sits in between those two on that side. That will also keep things from getting too crowded there. So just stick them in the ground, and then we'll just kind of cover them up as we go. We don't have to plant these things real deep at all. All right, so we got our shallots down in that row right there, and shouldn't take but a couple weeks before we start seeing some green sprouts popping out of the soil. I typically don't water these until I start seeing some green sprouts and some root development on these. I don't want the soil getting powder dry, but I'm definitely not going to water it heavily until we see some green. So our shallots are done, and now we need to plant a different type of allium. So these are our white Welsh perennial onions, and these don't multiply quite as much as those Louisiana evergreen shallots, but the tops do get a lot bigger. You got a lot bigger plant here. These also do not bulb, but they produce some pretty prolific seed heads, and they'll volunteer all over the place. You can see some volunteers right there. We can see some ground right there in our mulch. So these are propagated by seed or by division, which is what we're going to do today, propagate them by division. So we don't carry bulbs for these on our website, we do carry the seeds though. And important to note, while those Louisiana evergreen shallots are pretty cold hardy, these are even more cold hardy. I think you can grow these pretty much anywhere throughout the winter. But anyways, we need to move these, spread them out a little bit. I had them in this bed over here as well. I already pulled those up and got those ready to replant. So this is what a bunch looks like when we pull it out of the ground. I think this one only has 3 plants. Some of the ones I pulled earlier had 10 to 15 plants. So the rate of multiplication or division will vary a little bit from one bunch to the next. Now you could just turn around and plant this bunch in another spot if you wanted to, but given the rate of multiplication on these, I do like to spread them out a little bit. So I like to split them up if I can, and that's what I've done here with the ones I already pulled. Sometimes I split them up into just one stalk. Sometimes they don't come apart as easily, and I leave 2 stalks in a bunch there. But we try to divide them out a little bit there. I also trim up the roots a little bit, something you don't have to do, just makes this process a little cleaner. So we just take some scissors, trim up the roots. I also trim up the tops there. Just makes planting easier. You don't have to do it. Just makes it easier for me to fit all these in this little box right here. So much like those shallots, we're going to use a double row here as well. We're just working with a plant or a rooted stalk instead of a bulb. Like I said, these things here don't spread out quite as much as those shallots, so we don't have to be quite as worried about overcrowding them too much. The tops will get huge, but they don't multiply quite as much. So I will put these a little closer together. Don't need to plant them too deep, but I want them planted deep enough so they stay upright there. So we'll go about, I don't know, 6 inches apart on these here, working our way down the row, and then just like we did with those shallots, we'll stagger our position on this side here so that that one there is kind of between these two here. All right, so we got those white Welsh onions down there, a whole 30-foot double row, and we will treat these and those shallots exactly the same, although next summer they will do different things. So we'll water them well. Once they get going, we'll feed them with some nitrogen fertilizer, feed them pretty heavily, try to promote as much growth as possible. Now next summer or next spring, what will happen is these shallots here will produce a flower head, no seeds on it, just a flower head. And then when it gets really hot, they'll bulb. These here will produce flower heads as well, but they'll have seeds on them that we'll harvest to keep these things from volunteering all over the place. But you can put these in a permanent spot and just let them re-volunteer if you want to. So those are two perennial aliiums that I really like. Here's another one. A guy in Florida sent me this variety last year. I planted it and it's done pretty dang well. So this is called Maria's Guatemalan leek. So the leaves are flat. They look like leek leaves. And in this bunch right here, keep in mind we planted one plant, and shoot, I don't know, there might be 20 or 30 right there. So these things do multiply pretty rapidly as well. Still figuring these out a little bit, but I like what I'm seeing so far. Now one interesting thing to note with these Guatemalan leeks is why these right here look so much worse than these right here. Same variety, planted in pretty much the same spot. What happened earlier this week, I pulled back some of these sweet potato vines because we're getting ready to harvest these sweet potatoes next week. So these plants here, the nice pretty green ones, were actually covered in sweet potato vines earlier this week, so they were pretty much shaded. These right here weren't covered in sweet potato vines, so they were getting all the sun they could get. That tells me that maybe these don't like our summer heat that much. Now I think these will recover and look just fine once it cools off, but just really interesting to compare and contrast those that were shaded and those that weren't. And so I don't think I'm going to leave these Guatemalan leeks here for another year. I'm probably going to pull these up and move them over there where we planted those other aliiums earlier today. Just not going to move them today, but I will here in the next week or two. So we got some of our aliiums planted or moved and replanted, but still a lot more to go. We got to plant those bulbing onions in November. I got to move those leeks I just showed you. Also got some potato onions that did pretty well this year. Probably going to move those as well. And that's the great thing about these perennial aliiums. They're so dang tough. If you plant them in a spot that was maybe too small and they get overcrowded, or maybe you want to use that spot for something else, you can at any time pull them up, split them apart, plant them somewhere else, share some with a friend. Most of these do divide or multiply pretty rapidly, so you're just going to have a continual supply forever and ever. So I hope you enjoyed the video today, and if you purchased some of those shallot bulbs or white Welsh seeds from us earlier this year, let me know in the comments below how they're doing for you. And if you want to try some of those white Welsh perennial onions or any of the bulbing onion varieties we grow around here, you can find seeds for all those on our website at lazydogfarm.com. And if you struggle growing nice big bulbing onions, watch this video right here. We'll go through our top 10 onion growing tips. Should really help you out if you're growing just some small to average size onions, help you grow those nice big jumbo onions. So check that out, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.